it's so easy to just go to connect those dots and be excited by it, not in a positive way, but to go, I found something. I have to tell everyone about it.
I'm going to ban the sale, production, consumption of mayo. Bruv, get this. I'm going black leather trousers and a leopard print shirt. You couldn't get more Essex and less goth. Come on, what am I doing?
Here's my non-controversial one. People who are the heads of areas in politics need experience in those areas. And then
but not in any weird clubs, and you can only take my word for that.
So, Rob, 45 days. She lasted less than a lettuce.
Joe, I love the British for doing something like that. Only the British could do that. You're not going to get that in any other country. That was amazing. Anybody
who likes British humour, if you're not from Britain,
I'd say.
If you are from Britain, go and follow the Archbishop of Banterbury on Instagram. Like, it's the best subtlety in humour. When Rishi Sunak finished his first speech, did you see the one where he had the windows closing down theme? Just as he finished his speech. I was like, so subtle, but I love it. So what's your views on the tenure of Liz Truss?
It was, for me, an odd choice to begin with. I didn't see... I as soon as she got in, I thought something else was going on. It was a distraction of something, or there's some reason they really don't want Rishi in. I thought it was an odd choice, because out of everyone who was in that run-in, I was certain he was going to get it.
Why?
So when he didn't, I thought, I just see him as, okay, he's the most known and public of the figures who were on that list. Personally, I think he's the most qualified out of all of them. Because
it's like picking between gonorrhea and syphilis, isn't it?
It literally is. And you're never going to find a perfect candidate. There's not a single one that every single one's going to agree, that every single person's going to agree going, yep, the stand-up figure, that's who I want to run the country. You're not going to find the figure that doesn't have some sort of scandal in their past. You're not going to find the figure that doesn't have... I mean, what's the big thing with Rishi? It's his income, right? His wealth.
His wife's wealth.
Married to his wife's wealth. But it only matters to the people that don't agree with that sort of thing. For me, that makes no difference to him as a person, to his character either.
I'm always suspicious with people who complain. People often get on the high horse with people. Difference if they're dodging tax and it's illegal. But people are like evading tax, if that's the right term. I'm not good with my accountant knowledge. Yeah. When they're putting it overseas and all this kind of thing, right? It's not an illegal practice. It's just a bit unethical, right? And how many people do you reckon that got on the high horse about Jimmy Carr and Rishi Sunak's wife, who actually probably do as much as they can to ramp up their expenses, putting every coffee shop and haircut through? Like, they do it themselves. It's just because they are people of elite that they feel that they are mightier than thou. Yeah,
100%. And there's an argument to be made that it highlights or triggers their inadequacies because they're not in that position themselves. And in terms of the scale of which he's probably evading, avoiding, whatever the hell it is, as people with that enormous amount of wealth probably do, and justifiably, I would do the same myself. A lot of the people that moan are just in like general jobs where that stuff's taken care of for them, so they're comfortable. That's a world they're never going to experience, these tax loopholes or trying to not fiddle things, but trying to get the most written off that you can, so you're not giving most of your hard-earned money away. But when that's automatically done for you and you still see a large majority of your money coming in and you've got a cushy job to still go to, it's easier to get in that comfort zone and then just look at anyone else who has more than you and going, right, I pay my taxes, you should be. Well, technically I pay more than you, but I just know how to take more off my list than you as well, you know? But man,
are you optimistic about Rishi?
Can't please everyone. As optimistic as I would be that I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. Like, there's some there, there's some not, because anything could happen. But I've no faith. I've optimism. I've zero faith, because I've zero faith in the entire system. I've zero faith in any politician. It makes no difference. Like, it's just clown. What really worries me, without getting too conspiratorial, what really worries me is while all this nonsense has been going on, technically no one's been in charge. And when no one's in charge, people do stupid stuff that they know they can get away with because no one's in charge. That's the bit that worries me. But
so what kind of stupid shit do you think might be going on?
Money going to, towards weapons, towards labs, towards testing, towards anything really. I can't say too much because New World Order will take your podcast offline, and I don't want that.
I think if they're going to do it, they're going to do it with this episode, right? Like, you've seen the title of this episode?
This will be the one.
Yeah. Either that or they'll hire us.
Mate, if you get a large wedge of cash. So here's a question. Before we get too deep, here's a question. If they came and they come with a massive wedge of cash and they go, right, here you are. You're about to be inducted into New World Order, Illuminati. It's a ton of cash you're never going to want for anything. You're going to get all the money, influence, power, everything you could possibly want. Got an easy life. You just, every so often, have to do what we say. If we say this is the narrative that goes on the media, this is what you have to say. You occasionally have to sacrifice a few kids and drink their blood. But other than that, it's pretty cushy. Would you say yes? Would you join? Would you get the T-shirt?
That is the world's greatest question. That's the world's greatest question. But the part of me that is honourable and decent and for free speech and is going to say no, right? The slightly greedy part of me is obviously going to say yes, but also the curiosity part of me is going to say yes. Like, I started this podcast partly built off of how curious I am about the world and to have conversation like this where we discuss this kind of thing. If I get the keys to the kingdom to know what's really going on this planet, how could I say no to that? And have you noticed? That I didn't have any objections to the blood?
True.
I just think I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut, and that's my concern. And I don't want to be knocked off for that.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's when that's the problem. You're going too deep. I think as soon as you sign that dotted line, it's too late. There's no getting out of it. You're either humiliated, or you're shut down, or you're silenced. There's no getting away. If it's real.
If that's like if it's real, that's like the Epstein when they went to the Epstein house in New York and they found the big painting of Bill Clinton in a dress, and that's a we've got your bitch sort of thing, and that's one of what led to that photo. Well, not photo, but painting.
In a dress, George Bush playing with Lego towers and paper planes.
What's there? I didn't know about that one.
It's all a bit much.
Do you think it's
George
weird?
Bush sat in the Oval Office, I think it was, and it was either Lego or some sort of brick, something that was obviously towers that had been knocked down, and he's playing with two paper planes.
Oh my God! I mean, that's creepier than when The Simpsons predicted it.
I think the Clinton dress is worse though, but I remember that Simpsons bit. God.
I watched a video about the conspiracies of The Simpsons the other day, and people thinking they're time travelers. I'm like, they've got so much more shit wrong than they've gotten right. They've got so many episodes. They're going to get some stuff right.
Yeah, something's going to go right. And obviously they didn't say it's clear cut as 9/11 was going to happen, but there's little. I don't know, man. I don't know. You can take what you want, meaning from whatever the hell you want, but there's something in there. Let's not forget who the creator of The Simpsons is and how well connected that guy is as well.
I don't know this, actually. How well connected is Matt Groening?
He is a very high level, well-known and publicly Freemason.
Oh, interesting.
And that's not even conspiracy. That's public knowledge. Probably find that on his Wikipedia.
Yeah, he took the piss so much in the Stonecutters episode.
Well, yeah, I know. That's the weird bit, isn't it?
How true is that episode now? The No Homers Club.
That's the best episode ever.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
That's my favourite Simpsons episode of all time.
Going back to Epstein, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say. Do you think it's weird in a sex trafficking case that there's been no talk about a list of people they have trafficked in the?
Well, this is the crazy thing, right? So Epstein arrested, charged, imprisoned, offed, Maxwell charged and in prison. So her criminal record is because she's been found guilty of trafficking, sex trafficking specifically, minors. But for there to be trafficking going on, there has to be a recipient there. So who to? Who's she being charged with trafficking to? That's the whole.
Yeah, it's not child pornography, it's not child sex, unless it was to Epstein himself. But
But let's not forget, and this is public knowledge as well, that the cases, the documents were all sealed shut during that trial. So all the Epstein documents on who, so they have the list. There's just no incentive for them to make it public because they're seeing that as a separate case. They've got Maxwell. Doesn't mean the system's going to stop. Doesn't mean that circle or that club's going to stop. But they've got Maxwell and charged her for what they're saying she was guilty for. For the next round to continue of opening that list requires an entirely different legal claim and the people who are willing to do that. Who the hell wants to do that? How much that would cost, how bad your life would be made, chances of you getting off, chances of your family getting off. Because it's that powerful. That's a sad thing, isn't it?
Do you think Epstein is the top of it? Because he was obviously very in charge. Because if he's above presidential candidates to have these images in his home, was quite a powerful man. Do you think there is layers above him?
Yes. I think there's a lot of layers below him, and I think it's more than likely them that offed him. Because, but in terms of above him, yeah, he's just one cog in the wheel, basically, which is why when he's gone, that thing will continue. Now Maxwell's gone, it will continue. It was probably around before him. That's probably how he got into it. He was shown the way by someone else. I don't think he's an originator of any sort. He just went into this circle and then found a way to get more power, more notoriety, more connections from that, more money. And someone showed him the way. Of course they did.
Do you think it's all linked in the sense of obviously there's quite a few movements of people in power having their way with minors. So obviously we had the Weinstein, we had the Epstein case, we had the Savile, we had the Rolf Harris, we had even there's a thing in higher ups in pro wrestling of all things. Do you think royal family with Andrew? Do you think these are all? I know Epstein and Andrew are directly linked potentially, but do you think these are all linked? Because Alex Jones obviously said these are all linked. But Alex Jones says a lot of things.
If we go down the David Icke route, he'll say they're all linked as well. He'll link it more back to the royals than you will anything else. I never watched the entire presentation because it's so long. But his, you could probably find it on YouTube. His video about Savile links it back to the royals.
There'll be a direct link there because he was good friends with our new king now.
He was good friends with our new king, which is, it leads to questions. Doesn't automatically assume guilt.
Of course not.
But it leads to questions.
I wholeheartedly say that, as it stands, as the evidence that's presented publicly at this moment in time, I am an Andrew sympathizer. And I'll tell you why.
I have lost you.
You there? Back?
Oh, little bit.
Okay,
You're moving. I can hear you now. Yeah,
cool.
Good now.
Cool. We'll do a little pause. Where did I catch you last?
Literally, just as you were about to ask, we said about questions and the royals. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think again, I'm not necessarily saying that they have anything to do with it or not, but as the evidence that is presented publicly at this moment stands, I'm a little bit of an Prince Andrew sympathizer. And I'll explain why. Because I'm all-heartedly ready to be wrong. I think he probably is a scumbag. But based on chronic evidence, he is a man in the UK that's had sex with a 16-year-old, which is totally legal. He just makes him a bad husband. And we've all come out doing guilty until proven innocent, where that is not the case anywhere else in the political system.
That's what happens, right? So if you look at the amount of photos that Epstein or Maxwell herself of people that are at parties, things like that, and they've got photos, a joint selfie, whatever, people are automatically going, well, they're connected. Like Elon Musk, there's a photo of Elon Musk stood next to Ghislaine Maxwell. But it's just a snapshot of that moment in time. It doesn't mean conversations are actually had. It doesn't mean connections are made. It doesn't mean anyone was trafficking that direction. Maybe from Maxwell's side, that's a way of going, oh, new person to bring into the cycle. Doesn't mean they got in. You could say that about anyone that's ever been photoed with them, like the claims of Trump. But then there's also stories that Trump kicked Epstein out of his club. We're so quick to just go, yes, 100%. We like to act like we're so intelligent we wouldn't believe anything the media just feeds us. But as soon as the media says Prince Andrew, then boom. What's the link? What have we got? We've got the photo of Virginia. I forget her name.
I think so. Virginia Wade, right?
Of the poor girl that's making the claim. And what can you do? We automatically assign that tiny little bit as pure evidence when really it's not. It's just a photo that may go against his claim that I think he originally said he had never met her ever. And that's why the photo was such a big thing, because it's like, well, yeah, bro, yeah, this is you've met her.
He made himself look really guilty in that interview. That was a bad media decision to do.
That was one of the worst interviews ever. Who the hell ever let that happen? Who failed to prepare him? I don't know. But at the same time, I like that it was bad, because it shows that it's not just all scripted nonsense, that it's just passing the buck. It shows this geezer's a moron. This geezer's trying to cover his cracks and failing to do so. I'm so glad that's in the public domain.
I also think a little bit of like, I know that and I'm saying this with both of us having a bit of a tendency to put our tinfoil hats on and question everything. But is this potentially the argument of why people say conspiracy theories are dangerous? Because people assume that these people are connected because they've seen a photo. Where if we hadn't had been fed the conspiracy that there is a big organization that is trafficking these people, if we just had a non-famous, a non-Epstein sex trafficker, we wouldn't assume that he was bringing in all his mates into this little club going, hey, come here, there's more of these girls. He'd be more like, I'm hiding this. If I was doing something dodgy, I wouldn't want anyone else to know. So we can't assume that if I had this photo with him, most sex traffickers go to prison and their mates go, I never had any idea. But with Epstein, we assume everyone that's in a photo with him must be involved.
Yeah, that's the problem. We just automatically assign that because it's easy to and it's juicy, and you go, like I said, like Elon Musk was even in one. But has there ever been any claims? I don't think so. But people will automatically go, well, look. Or they want reporters to ask them about them. Well, it turns out, as far as I'm aware, the story was she came up to him at a party and she was quite aggressive, trying to get info out of him and trying to get to know him, and he just moves on. But that seems like him anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a guy that has a close or big circle of friends and acquaintances and things like that anyway, as far as I'm aware. But then I don't know the geezer. How can I possibly say it? And how can I pass judgment as well? How can everyone who's pointing the finger, everyone needs to take a look at it. Same with the tax thing. Everyone needs to take a look at what they're doing first before they, without getting too biblical, before they cast the stones themselves. You know? But, I don't know.
So before we put our global elite hats on and try and change the world, let's discuss them a little bit. Do you believe the conspiracy of the New World Order? Do you believe there is a global elite? Do you believe there are people running the world that we don't know about?
I 100% do. I believe it's people we don't know about and people we do know about. And people in higher European royal circles that we don't hear much about because they're not on the Forbes 50 list and things like that. I think that's personally, I think that's all a distraction. Like, I think the people who really, really are the richest, the wealthiest, who genuinely have the most power, would not want to appear on any list in any magazine, because that can take your money and your power away. And that gives you way, way more publicity than you probably want if you are the people that are. I saw a list not so long ago. I don't want to expose my Telegram contacts, but I saw a list a long time ago from this group that I was in, and it says, this actually is the Illuminati. And I'm expecting to see popular figures that I know. I did not recognise a single name off of this list. All European royals, some Jewish, some Middle Eastern. I didn't recognise a single name off of this list.
Do you reckon there was any legitimacy? Do you think this makes you any legitimacy? This could be a list of random names.
Until they turn around and say, yes, this is true. How do we know? How can we ever claim legitimacy to these things when all you have to do, the other side, is say, no, it's not true. It's impossible to tell, really, if you think about it. But
the two biggest arguments...
reading it, I can't... It was a while ago that I read it, but there were things in this list that pointed out who this person is, who they're connected to, what they own, what power they have, what they're invested in terms of certain politics in certain countries, certain industries. You're like, even for those bits to be true, this person has more wealth, power and influence than most other things anyway, than most other people, billionaires even. But I don't know, could all be bollocks.
The biggest argument that people will have, there's two biggest things that will always come back when anyone mentions that they think this potentially could be true. The one is, how can this 1% be able to control the vast majority? And while there is signs of that in the world with the influence of media, and we can put people in echo chambers now because we control what they see and what they do, and we look at places like South Korea and some parts of China. But there will always be a point, there's the argument, there's always going to be a point of there's a breaking point. There is doctors that have to be in it in terms of COVID conspiracies. There is a point where someone has nothing to gain by necessarily keeping their mouth shut. They can't off everybody. So what would you say if someone comes back at you with that counter-argument? How do the 1% control the masses and stay hidden?
Well, again, money influences, right? If you want your campaign funded, it's got to be funded by a company that may say, we will give you this funding if you pursue this line of campaigning, politics, whatever the hell. Like,
but that would influence the CEO. So let's say the CEO of Pfizer is this person that's funded that gets their campaign funded. Now, that would then have to trickle down to every single employee. That person on the bottom of the tree, while they might not know what's happened with the CEO of Pfizer, they will question this narrative, not get answers. They now are the person that's the closest up to give something away, and they're not getting any of this funding to keep their mouths shut.
Well, because when you're that far down the line, why should you receive any of that? It's above your pay grade, isn't it? Why should you receive any of that info?
That's why you wouldn't keep quiet.
But that's also why you wouldn't keep quiet. But then it's so easy to just fire you, create something, find something on your laptop. Oh, why were you looking at this at work? See you later. Bye. And again, it's certain NDAs might have had to be signed.
It's true.
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, talk about CEO of Pfizer. There's only a handful of people that got incredibly wealthier from the last 2 years, and that's the industry they all got wealthier in. And so now those guys have money. Would they want to put more influence out there to further fund their medical pursuits? It's happened in the past. Why wouldn't it happen again now? Now they've got more wealth, more power, and certainly more susceptible, easily led politicians to do so. If we find the ones who are a bit more money hungry or a bit more easily led, our current guy could be that guy. Could be.
You could argue that would be the case for British politics for a while, right? Potentially American politics too, right? You know, like Biden's not exactly everyone says he's not exactly within sound mind. These are people that potentially could be easily swayed.
Indeed.
Yeah, I think so obviously that's the biggest ones, like how will one like impact the many, and the other argument is what would they have to necessarily gain? Because, and again, I'm slightly on your side, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here in terms of I get the potential gain of a population that is more influential and in control, but if you looked at creating wealth for, let's say, Amazon and Pfizer and then crippling the rest of the economy, people said there was no financial gain of having a global elite that, well, maybe not having a global elite, but having a global elite that does not have the best interest in economic growth in mind, crippling middle businesses and crippling people. So what would you say to that?
this is the thing, right? It's when you look at these New World Order Illuminati conspiracies, that all these things come back to that they want to rule the world and they want to kill everyone. And obviously, if they kill everyone, how do they get any money? They don't. They have more power because there'll be less people, but they don't get more money because of that. I mean, maybe not. If there's less people, there's more money to go a certain way. Because if there's less people, doesn't mean that money disappears. That money's already out there. So obviously, it can trickle their way a bit more. But there's less people to get stuff out of, even though there'd be less people and it'd be easy to control. It's what is the actual goal? I don't know. Who does actually know? There used to be a big conspiratorial talk that what was written on the Georgia Guidestones was almost like a blueprint for a New World Order. And funny enough, they got blown up recently, which was a bit odd.
So what was on the Georgia Stones?
Let me get them up. There was something about Alex Jones used to love these. There was something about like depopulating the world by like 80% or something like that. Let me see if I can get them. Inscriptions, because it is bad.
I have a theory.
Consistent.
But you go first, because I want to hear this first, and I will tell you what. I have a theory. Okay. No, because I want to have a theory. What I think the New World Order, while short term are horrible, there may be an argument that they are there for good.
Ooh. So, the message consisting of a set of 10 guidelines or principles was inscripted on these guidestones in 8 different languages, but we don't know who set them up, really. And according to some people, they think these inscriptions are meant to guide humanity to conserve nature after a nuclear war, which makes sense, right? Because there'd need to be some guidance. Otherwise, we'd just go back to the wild. So the inscriptions read, there's 10 of them. The first one is the only one that ever gets spoke about. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So that's the one where people say, well, we're way above that number. So to maintain that means killing a number of people off. But also at the same time, yeah, kind of makes sense. We don't want too many people on, and we don't want too much of an imbalance between nature and humanity, which we're already seeing, and we're screwing the planet up as we do. Number 2, guide reproduction wisely. That could be taken either way. 3, unite humanity with a living new language, whatever that means. 4, rule passion, faith, and tradition, and all things with tempered reason. So again, you could take any of these either way. Rule, passion, faith, and tradition with tempered reason. Makes sense, but at the same time, it also sounds like they're controlling what people say. 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Do we have that or not? I don't know. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. That sounds a little bit dodgy.
Ooh, yeah.
Avoid petty laws and useless officials. We definitely don't do that. Balance personal rights with social duties. That does not exist. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. I like that one. And be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. And that's written twice. Leave room for nature. I couldn't agree more with that. Could not agree more with that. With that last 2. Those last 2, they're my favourite ones. But the first 3 or 4 are the ones that can easily be twisted to say, well, they're trying to control things here. But that's one of the biggest New World Order conspiracies, and that was recently blown up in relation to summit. Or sorry, not in relation. This is a coincidence. It was around the time that Trump did something as well. So obviously the hardcore MAGA crowd are now going, this is a sign. This is a sign. Whether it was struck by lightning or blown up, this is a sign that Trump's the one. Trump 24. I'm betting this with my mates now. Trump 2024. You watch. But it won't be a good thing.
No, I kind of agree that's going to happen.
Lost her. But no, I got you. Yeah. 2024. You watch.
I kind of agree with those last 2. Kind of fall into actually what I was thinking. I was watching I think it was Chris Williams' episode recently. I think it was the Jordan Peterson one. Where he was talking about the population peaking relatively soon, right? And he was talking about that in terms of less people having children and people going, longer, we've been having careers. But I sat down and I thought, the resources, the issues that we're having with climate change, there's twofold, right? There's world elite dropping nukes in the ocean, for fuck's sake, and they're telling us not to use a deodorant and turn our light bulbs off and have a bag for life. And like, all right, but also just the amount of people on the planet is going to potentially cause more harm, right? So I was thinking, like, if there is a conspiracy around the COVID-19 pandemic, is this a thing where it's like, sometimes you've just got to do the hard thing now to have the good thing down the line? Like, is this a way we release this, we'll get rid of the survival of the fittest, we'll get rid of the weaker members of the herd, hence a virus that kills off the immunocompromised and the elderly, to see where we are to save us in 30, 50, 120 years?
There we go. Now we're going to go down the route of potentially some of the maddest ones. It almost feeds into what some of them have been saying for a long time. Like David, as soon as the jab came out, David Icke was saying this was always the plan. But David Icke's been saying this since the 80s. Is it really taken them 40 years to figure out this bit? Because surely they could have done something else, or they could have done this 10 years ago, or maybe even 20 years ago. Let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago when Tony Blair was in power and there was a big talk about vaccines that he was promoting that he wouldn't let his kids take or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. It was that long ago. Just don't quote me on that word for word. So it almost feeds in. Yeah, that's perfectly. How can we get the population numbers down? Well, let's give them this thing that they're going to make them think is really, really good for them. And in 3 to 5 years, it's going to slowly kill them off. And by that point, it's too late. They can't do anything about it because they're already dying. And the ones that could do something about it didn't get it. And it's going to be such a small number of people. It's so easy to just go to connect those dots and be excited by it, not in a positive way, but to go, I found something. I have to tell everyone about it, and X amount of people are going to believe it. In the last couple of months, there's a big resurgence of flat earthers, massive resurgence of flat earthers, and ones who are really, really doubling down on it as well. And it comes down to tribe mentality. What have people got going on in their life that's going to give them that connection and that dopamine hit? And people love to be the one that feels they know something that other people don't, and they want to be the ones to explain that as well. We see this all the time in the fitness industry. How many clients start making progress or don't make progress, and a mate tells them, oh, what you need to be doing is this. We want to be that person that has the answer that can tell you what to do. And sometimes that just extends into the conspiratorial realm. And I've been there. Trust me, I've been there. It takes a lot of work to get out of it, but I don't think you ever truly get out of it either. But I guess it kind of, once you're out of it, maybe it's not that you go the complete opposite way and you go, it's all bollocks. It maybe gives you more of a critical lens to look at stuff. And that's what makes a lot of my decisions. I think if I hadn't gone down those routes, would I have the same views on things that I do now? Probably not. I'd probably be a lot more gullible either direction, because it's so easy to just go, this must be true, 100%. Or to be the complete opposite, that you're not down that route, so you go, no, it's all conspiratorial bollocks, can't be right. But some things have credit to them. Some things are kind of...
some things have been proven to be right. And like
some things have been proven.
I always a very firm believer that the answer always falls somewhere in the middle, right? And I think in order to find truth, you've got to like go down the wormhole, find the things that are maybe a bit more tinfoil hat, and go down the media and have a look and back up those claims, and then you find this level of truth. Which
I've got to look at. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and so I think I
lost you a little bit there. Sorry.
Yeah, you got me back. So yeah, we got
Yeah.
So like, and then sometimes I think when you go down the far end, we attach ourselves to identities of people. And Alex Jones and David Icke have been some of those bigger people, right? And I'm not necessarily against Icke, but there's a little bit of the Simpsons effect in them, in the sense of like for every we go, okay, David Icke got this right, and this right, and Alex Jones got this right and this right, but for every Jimmy Savile's a paedophile that Alex Jones says, there's a Sandy Hook. For everything you got David Icke got right about the pandemic, there's a lizard person. And so is it that they actually have some information and knowledge that they are right, or they're just throwing everything out there and hoping something sticks for a quick buck?
Well, that's the thing. To get that level of notoriety and respect from a large audience, you only need to be right once, really. And if you think, okay, some people will say, no, it's all conspiratorial nonsense. There's multiple things Alex Jones has said that are right, that have been proven right as well. So suddenly the audience doubles down. We love having that figure. And it can be as controversial as Alex Jones. It can be as controversial as Kanye West. Kanye West. Or it can be as controversial as Jordan Peterson. Two people there that most would say is not even that controversial. But we love to have that figurehead, that top of the totem pole, or even religious figure in some way, shape or form. And again, if they're just right once or twice, suddenly the credence it adds to the idea of the fan base is the same with Trump as well. Same with Trump. You only need to say the right thing once or twice. Doesn't matter if you said the wrong thing 100 million fucking times. No matter how stupid it is. If you said the right thing once or twice, you...
Yeah. You back? So,
not sure why I keep yawning. I don't know if it's here. I don't know if it's this
I think it's your Wi-Fi. But...
I've got you. Maybe I haven't had your picture for a while. Like, you're frozen. It's a good position.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'll edit out this bit, but we'll go through much best we can and just see what we can piece together. It'll record all right on your end. It'll be cool, but it was fine on the recording. It'll just be what we get now. So it just hopefully it doesn't catch any pauses. So you've spoken about Alex Jones being... Actually, I'll do a pause here so I can edit that. So you speak about Alex Jones only has to be right once. What do you think's happening at Bohemian Grove?
I think it's a gentleman's club that attracts a lot of people in power because it makes sense. You want to network with more people. So you can all help each other out, much like Freemasons as well. Do that ritual? Nothing was happening as such in that ritual, I don't think. They said there was an effigy of a kid or a woman being...
I thought it was an owl.
I don't think... And there was the owl. I don't think someone was actually sacrificed. I can't imagine that is going on. But then you hear some things as well. I think it's just one long, massive, giant ritual that they do, like we see crazier ones in religion, that just so happen to, get filmed by Alex or whoever the hell he sent in there. And at that moment in time, we have zero context of that event. We just have him going in and boom, there it is. I don't know. What's the background of it? Is there occult ties to it? Is there pagan ties to it? Is there some sort of dick with a K on the end tied to it? I don't know. We have zero context. That's the problem. It was fascinating when he brought that out because that's when I was first watching this sort of stuff and he just brought it out. I think I had a VHS as well, not even a DVD. I think it was VHS. And it was fascinating. But again, if you've just got that slight incline in New World Order, Illuminati, networks of people doing bad stuff, that feeds into it perfectly, absolutely perfectly. But I can't remember who it was. There's some celebrity or president or singer or something like that. No, maybe not JFK. Whoever it was that got asked if he'd ever been or would go, and he said something about why would I ever go to those guys just run around naked in the woods or something like that. And I think this was before the Alex Jones vid. So it's obviously just some weird rituals, habits, behaviours, maybe even hazing that they do on each other. But then again, it could be darker. I don't know.
I mean, the thing that I always question with this in terms of the slightly tinfoil hat side of this is that it not proper dark, but just in the terms of the people that go aren't just political figures. It's not like a political boys club. It's people in cinema. It's people in television. It's people in media. It's people in big pharma. And it's like, if you wanted to create a narrative, you have every angle covered at this group of like, right, what we're going to do. And that's the thing I find very suspicious.
Talk about this on another podcast where I've chosen, when I've chosen a more private location. We may have discussed this already, that I went to a sex party. Now, I just went to a regular sex party. As far as I know, I don't know who gave their real names or not. I don't know who gave their real job titles or not as I was talking to people. But it makes sense that there would be things like this, where it's not just sex, where it'll be drugs, where it'll be hookers, where it'll be money exchanged in these more underground circles, because people have odd needs and kinks and things like that. And if you go back to the sex clubs of the 70s and the 80s, in the UK, in London, there was all sorts of political scandals. People are just into some odd stuff sometimes. And then if they can feel these kinks and desires but network and get something out of it at the same time with other people, you have these... it was Clinton. It was Clinton that said it. He said, where all those rich Republicans go and stand naked in the forest. So he's never been. Maybe he has been. I don't know. He's connected to people in another way. So it's, people do weird things. There was a video not so long ago of these guys doing a supposed ritual outside of CERN, which obviously feeds in the conspiracy that people are doing weird things at CERN. Are they opening portals? Are they reversing time? Are they contacting aliens? But maybe it's just a handful of scientists that are just into some weird thing, and they did it after hours when security's gone home. There just so happened to be a cameraman. But why was there a cameraman? Who'd laugh? They're just like, do you know what people are making these conspiracies about? So let's film a video at midnight of us doing this ritual and let it leak online. Feed the fire a little bit more because it's funny. I would love. That's what I would do. 100% would do that.
Yes,
100% would. But not in any weird clubs, and you can only take my word for that.
Exactly. And if you were, as you said, if they gave you enough money, you'd have to, toe the company line on the podcast. Okay, so after a few technical difficulties, we just finished talking about what we think is happening at Bohemian Grove. I have one more New World Order question before we put ourselves in the driving seat. Are they the greatest faction in pro wrestling history?
Oh, I weren't ready for that one. That's a good question. Are they? I don't know. Road Warriors were my jam. But then again, what was it called when Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior hooked up? What did they call it?
The Mega Powers.
Mega Powers. I don't know, man, but I was a big fan of Road Warriors.
You're showing your age here, right? I grew up. I started watching wrestling like late 90s, early 2000s. So I was DX, I was NWO, I went into like Nexus, Evolution, and you had Road Warriors and the Mega Powers.
There was, I don't know if you listened to, just super quickly, I don't know if you listened to Rick Rubin on Rogan the other day, which if you didn't, phenomenal episode, really, really good. One of the best I've heard in a long time. He's massively into pro wrestling, like watches it like 11 hours a week, which Rogan couldn't believe. Thought it was hilarious. And he got into it when it was like brawling way, way, way back. And then for him, the 90s era is when he kind of lost a lot of love for it. And it wasn't until like the Rock Stone Cold era that he started getting back into it. But that late 80s, early 90s era, that's my era. That's when I started watching it. That's what I grew up with. So those are the people I remember the most.
I was a decade later. I was like my first insight of wrestling was 2000 Triple H versus Cactus Jack street fight at the Royal Rumble, and going into probably the best year in wrestling history in 2000, which was unbelievable. And then the rise of CM Punk, which is like I don't know if you've seen the fall of CM Punk over the last few months.
No, you told me about this. I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, so he had this triumphant comeback. Everyone was like saying like finally he's going to be treated right, and he was like misrepresented, and he wasn't like entitled piece of shit. He was actually just held down, and then he was in this company saying how much he loved everybody, and then all of a sudden he like within 1 year he didn't like any of them, and he went on a public press conference next to the CEO and called up all the executive vice presidents publicly.
Oh, wow.
And then there was a scrap, a proper scrap, not a planned scrap, a proper scrap backstage, and they've all been suspended. And there's talk of CM Punk, of all people, who was world champion at the time, getting fired.
No way. Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's soured on a lot of people.
There was... God. See, now you got me thinking, man, not even Road Warriors. Not even Road Warriors. You had the Four Horsemen. They were I had in my room, I had the wrestling toys of the Four Horsemen. The Four Horsemen. Not ones that you could even move around. But I doubled up on that because I wanted those guys on my bedroom shelf and not in my ring. So I had two rounds of the Four Horsemen, and they got wrecked. They got absolutely wrecked. I did a lot of work, a lot of hours in the ring. No stuff.
My words, though, I think there's going to be we're on the cusp of another wrestling boom.
Really?
Because even though like AEW looked like it's going through a downward turn with CM Punk and all the big names, sort of few injuries, few people like CM Punk coming off the ball, maybe getting fired. There's a rise of someone called MJF, who my words will be the next biggest thing in pro wrestling. He's going to be unbelievable. Yeah. And then Triple H takes over WWE, and the product's getting better and better and better, and he's changing more and more things.
Makes sense.
We're going to be on a huge couple of years of wrestling, I think.
I'd watch it. I'd watch it.
I would go back into WWE now. Triple H has done a lot of good things.
Before
we lose everyone down a wrestling wormhole, though, and we'll do a wrestling episode, but we'll do the whole thing. I've got 5 things that I would do if I took over the New World Order and I wanted to run it for good. Some of them are a bit silly, some of them are a little bit more legit. And let's take it in turns. What would you do? Do you want to start? What would you do if you ran the world?
So when you asked me this question, I thought it's such a good thing because it opens up so much debate. Because you could just do the silly things. Cool. Why wouldn't you? You rule the world, who cares? But if you were to try and elicit some serious change, it almost brings into question how much power do you actually have? How can you change things culturally? Because we could say, right, here's the things I would do based on what we do in the UK. Doesn't mean they're going to work abroad, overseas. Doesn't mean that. Because one of the first things I would do is find a way to eliminate all animal cruelty, all animal suffering, okay? But I follow this dog shelter in Bali, Indonesian dog shelter. And a lot of what they do is they go around the island and they're feeding the strays. So you can then say, well, is it a cruelty for there to be strays? Well, it means they're not getting the best treatment they can. But at the same time, domesticating them and giving them to people doesn't mean they're being put in the best house either. And a lot of what they do is just based on miseducation. Like there's some people who have got their dog and the kids are scared of losing the dog. So the dog is tied up 24 hours a day. Now to us, that's cruelty. To them, that's making sure the dog doesn't get attacked by a predator or goes missing or get kidnapped or anything like that. So for me to eliminate that dog cruelty, it's more of an education thing, right? I would want every dog to be in a happy, healthy, warm household where they're fed, where they're walked, where they're looked after. That certainly isn't happening in every dog household in the UK either. But for me, top of the tier list, especially for dogs and cats, and this is it, it then becomes a massive, massive thing because you could say it for every fucking animal. But for me, dogs and cats especially, dogs top because they're better than cats. No cruelty towards them. It'll instantly increase the charges against people that are cruel towards animals. And certainly in the UK, establish, which I swear I heard a guy was trying to do. I think he was calling it the PHS, like a pet health service, because those vet fees are criminal, absolute criminal. And I've experienced this twice myself, absolutely criminal. So for people that can't afford those fees, what do? Dog, cat, pet has to suffer, or they have to then suffer because they couldn't afford those fees. So I would 100% establish some sort of pet health service, 100%. But like I say, it brings up, or like I say, it brings up so many questions, like in terms of this new world order. So we're going with the world, yeah? But are we just like, almost like genie type, we can just click our fingers and everything's cool? Or, man, it's such a mindfuck.
I think you've got to have an element of there's got to be a finger click. But you can't just go, I want world peace. Like you've got to have a little bit of context of how this is going to happen, right?
Exactly.
Like, what I would do. This is a personal one for me, but I would do. I would have total transparency in everything regarding equality, in every realm.
Ooh.
So, and I'm not saying, when I say equality, I'm not saying that's like I want every woman to be paid more. What I'm saying is I want total equality. I want equality. I want total transparency. So you're saying this is how people are getting paid. This is why there's this. This is why there's that total transparency across the board, not just with gender, with race, with everything else. And the reason why I want this is there'll be less confusion, there'll be less anger, and then you would now have no social justice warriors hiding behind good causes to be pricks. You would get no man-hating in the vein of feminism. You would get no meat-eater hating in the vein of veganism. All the facts are on the table. So now if you want to go out and hate, you are showcased for the prick that you are, rather than the person that you're trying to be. There's no bravado with it anymore, because you can't bullshit it.
It's true. Yeah, 100% true. That's the thing, is transparency and accountability. Accountability is what's missing. So I'd maybe add that as well. Like in terms of, maybe it's not my top 5, maybe it is my top 5. I'd want to see politicians, CEOs, military leaders, everyone that has any ounce of power over what happens in the general populace be held accountable, whether that is through some sort of review process that is not done by anyone that could be funded or politically inclined in any way, certain. Maybe that changes every time. Maybe it runs through a different circle of people. And then it's a case of, are you being, hold them accountable to what they said they want to do? Is there
like a jury
going on? Yeah, pretty much. You could say, it's just like some kangaroo court thing, but maybe that's what it needs. Maybe that's what we need. Like bigger, or less of a divide between those in power and those who they have power over. This is like with that level of accountability. Is that as well? Like if you create a system where everything is transparent, you can't hide between a fake value. Then you are held accountable when you're a prick, because you haven't got anything to cover you up anymore. In the same way, like when we're looking at this from a world leader perspective, it's interesting that the social warrior virtue signaling favours heavily left, when the American political system anyway is roughly 50-50. So if it's interesting that companies are trying to push this social justice narrative when they know probably less than half of people are going to agree with it. So why are they still doing it? Is it guilt? Is it to feel better about themselves? I don't know. But now if we have total openness and transparency, you don't get away with that anymore. You can't have companies that are hiding behind being like good Samaritans when actually they're wanting profit. Now we know you're wanting profit. And that's why that comes to me. I will give my next one because it kind of goes into your point just then. And this is a slightly more silly one, but I do think it's true. I think I would make sure that leaders should have background checks to deter bullshit. If anyone, and this is, so for an example of our Liz Truss, if anyone claims the naughtiest thing they have ever done is run through fields of wheat when they have had public affairs and trashed the economy, someone like the House of Commons should be able to publicise the dirt. So if you want to become president or prime minister, you have to give over a binder, like David Cameron in the binder will be, I like to shag dead pigs. That would go to someone like the House of Commons, and we hold that there until you say something a bit fucking stupid like this. The naughtiest thing I've ever done is run through wheat. It goes, well, hold on, Liz Truss. The binder's here. That will go into like a little bit of House of Commons blackmail, I think would do the world of good and would stop bullshit answers that we get every day in common TV. Man, it's not even like... This is not something I would... Well, something I'd want to change. But it's something I wouldn't if I was New World Order, obviously. But there was a photo not so long ago of Theresa May, like in the last week or so, Theresa May. And there's a lot of positivity around this photo because they're saying she's away from all this noise, this chaos, this bullshit. And she's just in some chocolate factory. And she's got like a tray of this chocolate being poured out in front of her. And in the second photo, she's eating it. But for me, that summed her up. She was just this nice, old, innocent woman that should not have been given the seat of power. She should have been going around village fates, opening them up. And
hey, at least she gets $100,000 a year pension.
Good on her. God bless her. You know?
Thanks. The only one I'm kind of happy for it. Yeah, she can pay for dancing lessons. You know, like 45 days and you get $100,000 a year. I've been trying to pursue $100,000 a year all my life, and you get it for nothing.
That's it. That's going to be the new thing now. PTs will go into politics to get that 6-figure retirement sum.
Oh,
all
man,
absolutely. 45 days.
Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to start a business teaching personal trainers how to get a 6-figure retirement fund through politics. And I've never done it before, but it seems to be the trend. You don't have to do it. You just have to talk about it.
Yeah, that's it. Jesus.
What's your next one?
Let me think of a serious one. One of the last couple of serious ones I had. Freedom of speech will be exactly that. Freedom of speech. Exactly that. No one will be cancelled. No one will be silenced. You will have the option to say it a little bit louder, like we've just seen Kanye West taken off all social media platforms, but yet appear on some pretty prominent podcasts and interviews. Cool. That's exactly what I would want to see. That's what I'd want for anyone. The chance for you to, I think we spoke about this last week, the chance for us to hear from people that are saying this stupid stuff, give them a chance to explain themselves, also give themselves a chance to apologise. But it doesn't mean if they don't apologise that we then go, well, you're not allowed to say anything in public ever again. We don't we don't exile people anymore like we would have done, or like we did in Judge Dredd. We don't do that anymore. We give people a chance to hear anything, but that also means that people then have a choice of whether to do business with you or not. With Kanye, honestly, people will disagree with me. I think he's played some 5D chess there. Like, I think it's genius, but it's just a horrific route that he had to go down. Because now Adidas have no contract with him. Balenciaga or Gap or whoever the else have no contract with him. So now he has full creative control over his fashion brand. Genius.
That's very fair point.
It took some horrific, stupid, moronic steps to get there. Yeah.
My top one was end censorship and encourage debate. And I in very similar route to you. I think one of the big overarching things with this is the 2022 equivalent of video games cause mass murderers. Like, why don't we put the impetus? We put the impetus and ownership on, like, if you went out tomorrow and decided to run someone over with your car and loot a shop, you would be arrested. You couldn't say, well, I went to GTA and saw looting. They wouldn't go, well, we're not arresting Rockstar, we're going to arrest you. Yet here we are censoring people on social media for having an opinion because you might influence other people. How about give the other people ownership on their own actions, their own behaviours and their own views? If someone does something because of something like, say, Andrew Tate does, there's an element of personal ownership in that you took stock in that to the point that it affects you to that level.
Exactly. And what was the book? Was it Catcher in the Rye? The book that was banned because it influenced a shooter or something like that. I'm probably butchering that explanation. This poor geezer is going to hear me talk bollocks now. I want to say it was Catcher in the Rye. It was a book that got a famous American book that got banned over there because of some incident, whether it was a shooting or it might have been to do with John Lennon, the guy who shot John Lennon. I can't remember. But what good did that do? Because X amount of copies are already out there that are not going to influence the majority of people into this. So to silence people saying, well, it's going to lead to... I mean, Lex Fridman said this to Kanye, that by saying, rather than calling out individuals and just saying it's Jewish people or the Jews that he has these issues with, it allows for more attacks on Jewish people, whether verbal or physical, or more hatred towards them. Sure, but take Kanye out of the equation. Let's silence him. Let's make sure he never says a thing again. The people who were likely to do that were going to be doing that anyway, because they already have those views. Like, Kanye doesn't necessarily bring around a new era of Jew haters or anti-Semites. This has been around for a long, long time, and it's going to continue for a long, long time with Kanye or without Kanye. We saw this around the era of Mel Gibson. Let's shut Mel Gibson down because he said anti-Semitic remarks. We've since gone on to make some pretty fucking good films. Jesus Christ.
Well, then that's okay then.
That's fine. As long as I get entertained, as long as I get my entertainment, I don't care. Like Henry Cavill could turn around tomorrow and say some horrific things about the Jews. I want my third Man of Steel film. I don't care.
I want him to be James Bond.
Oh, it's not going to happen now, is it? I'm going to take... I know we've made our bets, so if it means I'll lose the bet, I'll lose the bet. I don't think he will be now, because if he signed up to new Superman contracts for real, I can't imagine he'll do Bond on top of that. I also can't imagine the family would want him doing that as well. Maybe they want someone who can just be Bond.
I mean, what if you had Henry Cavill playing James Bond versus Kanye West as a Jewish villain? God, maybe that's what it'll be. Maybe that's what it'll be. The next villain, it'd be a social justice, themed Bond. My next one links into that. I put woke characters in cinema should come with a classification like the age certificate. If you are going to have like there's a difference, right?
That's amazing.
If you have a strong female character that's there because it's well written and it's fucking meaty and she's a badass and she's amazing, it can just be a 50. But
Love
maybe
it.
like it's like if you're having a character that's there because you need to tick a quota and you want to look good, you can do that if you want and try and get some fans. But you have, as a consequence, you have to put 15W. So people know it's going to be She-Hulk.
Where was it? I think it was Disney Plus, maybe even Netflix, maybe everywhere does this, I don't know. But when you show someone those older films and it says this film flags up, this film contains views that are no longer considered whatever the hell, whatever nonsense they put up, because apparently people have to be warned before they see a film. That would be it. This film contains woke characters that the directors couldn't write anything better in and are only there to top the numbers up.
Hold on. So because I haven't seen this, we are literally having warnings that these films contain views that are no longer agreed upon.
Yeah.
How much of insulting is that to somebody's intelligence where I can't have my own opinion? Careful, someone might be a little bit sexist and pat a woman on the bum. Just in case you're so influential that you start like going out and smacking women. Like, come on. Yeah. How amazingly stupid do they think we are?
And it's not even necessarily something that's said in the film. It's, here we go, I've got it. It's perfect. And you'll piss yourself at this. It's so bad. It's just depictions as well. So, for example, there is a warning, as far as I know, either in the write-up or something that will flag up before the movie plays, that shows the Native American scene in Peter Pan depicting Native people in a stereotypical manner. These also go into advisory classifications for The Aristocats, Jungle Book, Lady and the Tramp, Dumbo, and Swiss Family Robinson.
Dumbo's a little bit on the nose.
A little bit,
like with the what was the racial and themed murders based off the birds, isn't it? Jim Roach or whatever it was.
Yeah. So the crows in
that's the one.
Dumbo has a musical number that references Jim Crow laws and perpetuates anti-black stereotypes. That one's pretty fair. It's a little bit.
Yeah, that one can go. That one can be slim. That's fine. I don't need to see that ever again. I'm totally happy with that.
Oh my God! But like Song of the South, yeah, fair enough. I get it, but that's what the film was made about back then. I'm not going to say it. I stayed in a Airbnb at the weekend that had a massive like library in it, huge bookshelf that had classics, original prints, all sorts of stuff in it. Phenomenal. Original prints of Moby Dick. It had Tolstoy. It had War and Peace in there. And it had another book that features a word that we're not allowed to say in the title. And I Googled this book, and it's about like a slave ship or something like that, where one of them becomes ill. And it's quite a famous book that has only been... well, it's not even a campaign against it, but they changed the name. But obviously this original print has the original name on it. And at first you see it because you're like, can't say that. And I made a joke about it, but it's not it's not like a huge anti-black book. It just so happens to feature a word that was used then. You don't have to take that book away from me. I'm not going to read that book and then suddenly start using that word all the time. because I am of, hopefully, above average intelligence, and I have compassion, I have social awareness, and it's only a very small percentage of people that would do that. So that's what we're doing, is it? We're taking a small percentage of morons, and we're protecting them, if anything, in the name of protecting the greater number of people. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I remember recently, I was watching, when I was at home, watching a Bond movie on ITV, and it was censored for things that might have been said, and some of these things may not even be bad at the time. Now, in hindsight, absolutely they were, and I'm not saying that doesn't make them bad then, but it's like you've got to assume that we can be progressive as a nation, as a species, without necessarily having to literally just erase from history everything that's been. We spoke about this the other week. It's hard. Do you think it's harder now to have a villain? Because everyone's got to be politically correct and nice. What is the bad guy overcoming? How do you write a good villain anymore? Because they all have to be friendly.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll probably go through, what will we do? We'll go back to Russian villains because we can justify that. We can go, well, it's based on Putin. We can justify that. We've still probably got North Korea. We can justify that. But can we ever have a black villain again? Can we have a female villain? Probably not. Because the flag wavers will come over and go.
Well, that's the thing with J.K. Rowling, right? She got in trouble for having a cross-dressing serial killer in one of her books. I'm like, there's been heterosexual white male serial killers for years. Like, the majority of horror movies end that way, and yet like I don't get offended. Like there are people that have killed people that have been cross-dressers and transvestites, as there have been transsexuals and women and gay killers and all sorts of things. I no one looks at the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary and go, well, he shouldn't really depict that, because of all the reasons why you shouldn't make a dramatization of that thing. The fact that he was a homosexual has nothing to do with it.
Let's not forget, Netflix tagged that with LGBTQ. That's so funny.
Did they?
And people kicked off. Just
fairly so, and rightly so.
Yeah, just an oversimplification, right? Oversimplification. Some automatic copywriting process that has just gone right. Films about this serial killer tag, boom. Films about this serial killer tag, whatever. Films about it will have the location tag. And then just because he's a gay, it will just go, LGBTQ tag. And no one saw it. That's all it is. Until people saw it and went,
oh my God, that's so bad. It's automated, but it's so bad.
It's all it is.
It's so bad. But that's the worrying thing, though, about censorship, though, with the guy recently reposting that's pride flag swastika. Now, should he have reposted that? Does this make this guy a bit of a knob? Yes, but he got arrested because someone on Twitter got upset. But hold on, there's a great. Have you heard of the comedian Steve Hughes?
So he's maybe who I'm thinking of.
He's a great heavy metal, long hair. I'm sure he's Australian or New Zealand comedian, and he did this years ago where he talks about it and he goes, someone comes up to him after a gig and goes, you said this about the Lord, this joke about the Lord, and I got offended. And he's like, so what? Nothing happens. Nothing happens. You get offended, and then he goes on a speech about offensive being subjective. What offends me might not offend you. And he goes, I get offended when I ever see boy bands, for fuck's sake. And he rings up the police. They were on the telly this time. 5 of them this time, yeah. White suits.
That's amazing.
That's the point. The things I get offended by. I'm offended when I see any of this woke bullshit. But I couldn't cancel them. They wouldn't get arrested if I complained. It might be the way around for complaining about it. I get lumped in with the rest of them.
This is it. Without this hijacking the conversation, it's difficult to find the common ground to go with there, right? So I don't know if you saw recently, and I will choose my words very, very carefully to not upset too many people that I call friends, acquaintances, colleagues, whatever. There's a comedian by the name of Jordan Gray, transgender, that appeared on The Voice, and I have seen Jordan in... let me toe the line on this one. I've seen Jordan in both her male and female form. So I saw Jordan play fuck it, I'm going to fuck it.
She was a him?
When he was a guy, I've seen Jordan play as a guy. Now he identifies as a woman. I've seen Jordan play as a woman. It was on The Voice, got pretty far, I think, and is now a comedian and is playing the Palladium or something like that.
Wow.
And was, fair fucking play. And was on a show called Friday Night Live. Okay. I don't know much about this show at all. And played a 20-minute slot or whatever. And at the end, got completely naked. Like, completely naked. So you see what's been operated on and what hasn't been operated on.
Okay.
And yes, it's still there, if for those who are wondering. It's still there. Now, the debate is, it's Channel 4. Channel 4 people have done stuff like that since Channel 4 came around, right? It's known as the edgier channel, so to speak. You had Euro trash on there. You had all sorts. Nudity, both male, female, and whatever, is not new on Channel 4.
Well, naked attraction.
But obviously because... Naked attraction. Exactly. Naked attraction. So for someone to kick off at that would also have to be kicking off at naked attraction and would also have to be kicking off at any male, female, vice versa, nudity on Channel 4 for as long as it's been around. But obviously this is now something new. This is now something that's becoming a lot more mainstream. Jordan is probably one of the hardest working local artists that has come out of Essex for a long time. Really worked hard. Always playing. I don't think I ever saw a gig poster that I didn't see Jordan or used to perform under Tall Dark Friend. Forgive me if I've got that wrong. Incredible musician. Incredible. Like the whole audience would be jaw dropped. Piano skills, incredible. Singing, incredible. This intense, almost schizophrenic type performance, incredible. But does getting naked at the end of this routine just completely detract of everything that happened beforehand and just go for low ball humour and shock value? Yeah, a little bit. But the bigger question is, should that have been allowed? Well, it was after the watershed. That's why we have the watershed. Some people have said kids would have been watching. Well, kids shouldn't be watching. And is it that bad for a kid to see that? Is it that bad for a kid to see it? Really? So then it blurs the line. Okay, should that have been allowed? Well, who are we to say yes or no on that, really? I would want someone to be able to say what they want and be able to do what they want within the confines of the law, but at the same time maybe face the greater consequences of whatever their actions brought around. What consequences should be brought
you might lose a proportion of your audience, and that is their choice and their prerogative.
And that's their choice and their problem.
And your actions have consequences. I sent you the video of just Pearly things. So the one that's like talks about like a lot about equality and podcast. And one of the things she's saying is like, I don't mind what women, men, or whatever do with their bodies when they're young, but I think that she thinks a lot of women aren't educated enough that if I decide to do OnlyFans, this does potentially lower their, I don't want to say market value because that sounds like their possessions, but just like lower their ability to get the husband they want because they might not value them. Like they should in theory, but they don't. And when we look at dating research and dating sites, that we see these stuff, right? And so you can do what you want, but I think people should know the consequences of that. In the same way here, it's like, should he be allowed to get naked or she allowed to get naked on stage? She can do what she wants on stage. It's her gig. But she, as long as she knows that the consequence, that there may be a part of her audience that may be alienated by this, and that is a choice. In the same way that James Smith pisses people off. It's the same as James Smith pissing people off on Instagram. He knows that he might piss people off in his audience, and he takes that because he gets more loyal audience who like him for who he is. Yeah,
exactly. And if the consequence, I don't think there should be any real consequences, but a conversation should be had at the very least. Because at the same time, a lot of people are saying, well, that goes against public indecency laws and exposure. And maybe it does. But I don't know. I've never looked at what the classification of programs that are in past the watershed and are they actually committing any criminal acts from that. I don't know. I don't look that deep enough. I don't care either. I don't watch much TV because I think it's all shit. So in terms of, are there any sort of legal repercussions? Well, if it turns out there are, then... yeah, maybe it'd have to be enacted a bit. I don't know. But certainly no prison time and certainly no cancellations or anything like that. Certainly not like, because it's not like it's a geezer that walked up to someone in the park and just fucking whipped it out. But again, you can't please everyone. So even though for us to enact these 5 things, we have to be the New World Order, then we're not going to please everyone through all these things. So like my top one there was dogs. How many people aren't going to like that because they're like, well, humans are more important than dogs. Surely we should be looking after humans first. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. You can't please everyone, though, even if you're the New World Order.
My next one, I'm going to finish. I've got 2 more. I'm going to have my next slightly silly one. I'm going to finish with a very silly one that's probably going to be the one that pisses the most people off, and I'll finish with the controversial one. But here's my non-controversial one. People who are the heads of areas in politics need experience in those areas. And then I just put the phrase, what the fuck is a Matt Hancock? Like, because I listened to Matt Hancock on Diary of a CEO, right? And I think he came across, in all fairness to him, I think he came across incredibly well. And I sat there and thought more politicians should go on podcasts. Any of them want to come on mine, by the way, they can. They're more welcome. But long-form content where they can be themselves and I was like, I would have bought into you so much more if you spoke like this, but you were so worried. And he said this. He said he couldn't speak because everything's a gotcha question. Everything's, things where people are going to take out of context what you say to fit a narrative. So they have to be very careful. But I'm like, but I haven't seen many people complain about that interview. Like, it almost that people felt not sorry for him, but just people related to him, had empathy for him more. But one of the things I did disagree with him in the show, just as a caveat before I tear him apart, one of the things he did caveat is like he thinks there's a benefit to have someone who's in charge of an area that doesn't have any experience in the area because they can be a sort of a rational voice with no bias, essentially is what he was saying, right? But I think if you're going to be health secretary, especially in the middle of a global pandemic, you should have the faintest idea about health. Like no experience whatsoever. And I think that should go to world politics. If you want to be in a job, if I wanted to become head of education where I work, which I am, right? How did I become head of education? I didn't just walk off the street and go to my boss and go, I worked at McDonald's for 6 years. Congratulations, you're hired, become head of education. I have done this job for 7 years. I've been a personal trainer for 11 years. And this should be the pre-equivalent. It should be like the top doctors in the field that now become the head in politics of that area.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Because I think what's more important than bias is merit. Way, way, way more important. Because, okay, there might be some bias, but I don't think it's going to be that detrimental when you're getting into a role like health secretary. And at the same time, that bias goes both ways, yeah? So if you look at, I forget what country it is, where they've got a morbidly obese woman that is the health secretary. I forget what country. I want to say Denmark. I could be very, very wrong here. But it's easy to Google. That kind of feeds into, if you can't take after it, comes back to fat personal trainers. You can't look after your own health. How can you be expected to look after the health of the nation? If we've got a broke finance minister, well, how can you be expected to look after the wealth of the country? It doesn't add up. And if we're accepting that just to eliminate some sort of bias, well, there's going to be bias the other way. Because there may be bias coming from an obese health minister that says, well, you can be happy and healthy at any size, when we know that's not the case, but that might just be her reality at that moment in time. It's very risky. I would rather see merit and experience over perceived bias myself.
We mentioned transparency and accountability earlier on, right? And we also spoke about conspiracy theories, and are conspiracy theories dangerous? And we want people to have more open communication, debate, and have these things. The way of being able to have these whilst minimizing the negative side effects of people maybe going down the wrong wormhole is to have that transparency and accountability. Now, if we have a health secretary that is the top of their field in health, now, we know there's different science and different opinions of the same topic, but if they have merit, there is going to be a level of transparency, which means people aren't going to have blanks. You know what I said earlier on? I was talking about that spy who was on Chris Williamson in the podcast. He talks about why conspiracy theories happen. We have an end thing that happens, and we have an inkling of truth to something, and then there's a gap. And that gap creates wonder, we need to fill this space that's never going to be filled. And our brain tries to find reasons why, and that's why these things become outlandish. If we create a level of transparency, there are less gaps that need to be filled, which means less people now go hunting for things and find ulterior narratives, which means we create more legitimate debate with less people going, well, you must be taking a cut of this and you must be just trying to give our kids autism and all this sort of stuff that people just jump to these conclusions. If we create that trust, accountability will then come in, because even though Matt Hancock's reputation was shattered and was on the line, there's always the get out of jail free card of well, I'm just one of another politician. If you are the top of your field and you've gone from being a really respected doctor into politics because you wanted to do good and you lost your integrity or fucked up, your reputation's on the line. There is accountability there. I think there's so much good that would come from just it doesn't have to be. I'm putting the ideals here. If I was the New World Order of the best doctors, but just a little bit. I did a 6-week personal training qualification course would be a start.
Anything. Go back and do your A-level biology GCSE. Anything would do. Anything. Mate, it's, that transparency thing is huge. It's so much bigger than I think we've covered. It's absolutely huge, because everyone could then be held to account, and everyone would have to think a lot deeper and act a lot better before stuff was put out there. Like if there's nothing dodgy going on, then there should be no need for lack of transparency. There shouldn't be.
So, what's your next one?
So now we're going to have to get into some silly ones that I'm going to almost have to make up on the spot.
My next one's very controversial, so I could use a silly one. Let me think. I would. I would eradicate. Here's what I would do. I would not create a law. Obviously, that would be ridiculous. But I would expect a certain amount of intelligence for a song to be released on the radio. I love it. I love it so much. House music is gone.
So house music would be gone. If some kid wants to put 3 different types of auto-tune on his voice and just make noise, high-pitched noise over a trap beat, that's gone.
Bye-bye, T-Pain.
Bye-bye, T-Pain. It has to be
T-Pain is actually really talented when you take off the auto-cue. He's got a great voice. He really does.
It's, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe intelligence is the wrong word, but maybe some sort of actual artistic merit and creativity and a level of intelligence. I don't know. Let's put.
How about this? There has to be instruments.
Can we put? Oh no, because then I would lose a lot of the money, a lot of the music that I love as well. I'm a big jungle fan. I'm a big garage fan. I'm a big deep garage fan as well. Lots of instrumental stuff. So in terms of intelligent use of samples as well, though, that would be part of it too. So maybe you could put these things through an intelligence test, an IQ test of some sort, like in terms of sentence structure of lyrics, and then go, this is just, you just sound like these lyrics come across like a 3-year-old, so it's not going on the radio. We're not inflicting that on the public until you go away and learn some sentences. That's what I would do.
I love that. I love that. So we're gonna get into my controversial one then.
Let's do it, lads. Let's do it.
Yeah. So I would cancel Bargain Hunt. No. That's not it. So yeah. I'm just before I go into my controversial one, I am checking my followers just to see how many people I think I might lose. So currently I have 2,367 followers. I think I'm at a chance of losing probably about, most of them are coaches, so I'm going to say 500. 500 of the non-coaches potentially will lose here. Thankfully, I've had a lot more coaches join that might agree with me. Okay, here we go. So we've seen tax on things like sugar and things like this, right?
Okay.
Any tax on fast food should only apply to people over a certain BMI. And I didn't mean that to rhyme.
Boom.
I don't want to have to pay more for a Snickers bar when I can fit that into my macros. We put macros aside. When I don't have a problem with having 27 of them.
Yeah, I get you. I think this leads. I did a post not that long ago, just after the whole trust bollocks. That said, if I was Prime Minister, what would I do? And there were some things with an ounce of stupidness to it, and some things with a real ounce of seriousness to it. One of the things I said was free healthcare to anyone over 35% body fat. But a year later, if you're still over 35% body fat, that free healthcare is gone because you've not made any difference, any strides towards improving your health whatsoever. Over a year, no one can give me an excuse why they wouldn't get below 35% body fat after a year. No way in hell. When you and I ourselves would have seen people over 40% go a hell of a lot lower than that within the space of a year, within the space of 12 weeks.
You see it with you see it with like companies where they give you you're going to laugh at this, when companies will give you a loan that you don't have to pay back as long as you stay with the company for a certain period of time, right? Now, if you did this for this thing, so you can get free healthcare, we will loan you this money for your free healthcare, but you have to come within a healthy BMI range in a year, or you are now responsible for paying back that loan.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's better than my one.
Because then it's not free if you don't work.
Yeah, very true.
And mine is not even. Before I get people calling me out and going, I'm fat shaming and I'll make it difficult for fat people or whatever else. This is as much about changing policy around health as it is actually about making things more expensive for people that are unhealthy to get chocolate.
Yeah.
The thing I found with this anti-sugar stuff, increasing the price of a galaxy isn't actually stopping anyone or helping anyone get healthier. Freer, cheaper healthcare, better education in schools, paying for more education around there, offering cheaper personal training sessions for community gyms, right? There's things that they could do that would help people get healthier, right? But what they've done instead is done something that makes it look like it's a virtue signal, makes it look like they're trying to help public health, when actually they're lining their own pockets because it's a tax on sugar. It's not going to the local shop that's selling the Galaxy bar. It's going straight into the 100K a year we're paying Liz Truss.
Yeah. 100%.
That's my biggest problem with it.
100%.
Like,
and it's a similar thing with, you could feed this into alcohol. You could do the same thing with smoking. All these things where you are actively making a choice that is detrimental to your health long term, the more you do it, that other people are currently having to pay for. So I wholeheartedly agree with you on this one.
I've got a bit of... We're a pop culture show half the time, right? And half the time we're an education show. And this is a pop culture sort of episode. Do you want to hear a recent news story here?
Do we? Let's do it.
So I'm not going to say necessarily, I will say my opinion, but I'm not necessarily going to call out the opinion because I don't want to encroach the security law. I'm just going to say what the headline was, right? As of February 2023, CBD oil will not only be banned here in Hong Kong, but it will cover the same penalty if 15 years of jail time, the same as if you had meth, cocaine, or heroin in your possession.
Wow. Oh, my God. So that's only 80% one of the dumbest things I've heard, because there is a large portion of that industry that is just scamming people out of their fucking money. But at the same time, that's so dumb. So
I can buy a pack of cigarettes. I could buy a pint.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's amazing that there's a conversation next year, potentially in prisons, could be, what are you in for? I'm in for domestic abuse. I've got 8 years. What are you in for? I smuggled whole marijuana into the country. I got 10 years. What are you in for? CBD face cream, God. 15 years. There are bins around Hong Kong now where you can put your CBD stuff in. You just wouldn't believe it, would you?
It's not right. It's not right.
But like, going back to the sugar thing, I said, look, I have huge empathy for people who struggle with their weight. There's lots of emotional and connections to it. I'm not going to say genetic connections, but I'm going to say emotional connections of why people eat. I have total empathy, and my thing. It sounds initially like I'm making it hard for people who struggle with their weight. Like, yeah, they get punished while thin people don't. But it's not. It's this thing of if you're going to have a tax on sugar, It's got to be. It's got to be the people that need it. You shouldn't punish the people that don't have the problems. And it's almost a bit of a jab at the policy itself. It's like you want to help people who are struggling and medicating with food by making it more expensive to get the food. It is not helping anybody, and it does my head in when I say that. And I will just say fuck Jamie Oliver. He did good with the school dinners, but the anti-sugar thing, like, shut up.
Mate, he's got to quit. Don't hear from him as much now.
No, because people started to realise his education around food is more important than the demonising a food group.
True, very true, very true.
Do you have another one?
God, let me think. So what I will do is I will say another one from that post. I thought I had one a second ago. It escaped me. Maybe it was from that post. What did I do last? I criminalised shit music, and then
criminalised shit music. Yeah.
I criminalised shit music. I mentioned the healthcare one to do with your one, didn't I?
I did. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that one. I was going to try and level the playing field for people like me on podcasters who to make it easier for me to compete against people like Stephen Bartlett. But that's not fair because I really, really like the Diver CEO and I quite like that it's high production value. I just want a grant to help mine get this good quality. I want to pay for our own studio.
God, let me think. So I might just have to do one off this list because I forgot.
I want to do a silly one each before that.
I was going to say one, but it's gone. So I'll do one off my list just so we're not here all day with me trying to remember. I will go for. See, I would have gone for give all goths the hug that. No, I've remembered it. Just remembered it. So I was about to say give all goths the hug that they need, but not every goth needs a hug.
No,
and that's forcing physical contact on people that actively try to avoid it. So I'm going to take that one back.
And also, we've just spent the whole day talking about like this wokeness and helping out. Like, well, hold on, why just goths? Other people want hugs too.
Goths?
Why would you ever want a hug?
Other people need hugs. So I'll take that one back. I've remembered what it was. This could be the most totalitarian, controversial one out of all of the ones I've said. I'm going to ban the sale, production, consumption of mayo.
What?
Yeah.
Explain.
We're gonna ban mayo. No more mayo. Sorry, bro.
What about my truffle mayo? Because I'm a posh boy.
No, it's gone. It's gone. Sorry, lad.
You're not a fan of mayonnaise?
Mayo can go fuck itself right in the a-hole. Mayo is the food of the devil, and Jesus will back me up on that. Mayo is the most overrated, pointless, health-destroying, tasteless, stupid thing ever. What I said in one of my things on the list was I would want Christmas sandwiches all year round in the shops, not just at Christmas. But I was talking about this with a client the other day, that if I ever want to grab something quick, it's rare that I go for a sandwich from a shop because it is plastered with mayo. And that ruins it for me. So therefore, like, you've lost a customer, or you've just ruined my day because I've got to buy something that's got flipping mayo in it. And it really made me think, where do I value mayo? I can't stand it. Cannot fucking stand it.
On that note, I'm going to go, cucumbers have got to go. And I hate them. And tomatoes in sandwiches.
Ooh.
Because they make the bread soggy.
So this comes down to my burger science book that I will be releasing very, very, very soon. It's all to do with positioning. I'd allow that. Okay, so we want a complete, transparent review of the sandwich industry. So
I'd also
cucumbers shouldn't be in there. Tomatoes shouldn't be in there. And fuck mayo.
I also think people should be arrested for if they say things like sandwiches or roast dinners are their favourite food. And I appreciate here that I am just literally sending my fiancée to jail here because she loves roast dinners are her favourite food. But I would argue they are a collection of foods, you fucking moron.
But I get you. I love a roast as much as the next person. I love a roast as much as the next person.
But I like beef. Beef would be my favourite food in that. Or I love Yorkshire puddings. They are the favourite food. Roast dinners are a meal.
Yeah. Those are the two things. Literally, okay, and depending who does it, potatoes could be a hit, could be a miss. But the rest of it's veg. Let's say you was on death row. You can choose a roast dinner for death row. What you want for veg? 4 types of veg to be your last meal. No, you don't, bro. No, you don't. No one wants that. No one actually wants that. And again, it's subjective as well. A roast for one person is entirely different for someone else. Because you go to a restaurant, you order a roast, the first thing they're going to ask you is, what type of meat you want? And you're choosing your favourite meat because that makes your favourite roast. And if they didn't have that option for you, suddenly your roast is ruined. I'm with you on this. 100% with you.
So this is all spun back to when I was a young kid with my dad, and we watched this thing. It was like the top 50 meals that like foods to have before you die, and like number 1 was a roast dinner, and number 3 was the sandwich, and number 4 was like some like a panini, and I'm like, I'm sorry, that is not a last meal. So there was I remember this. So where is it? So I can find it. Here's the one. So have you heard why in Texas they have abolished the last meal? So prison officials in the U.S. state of Texas have abolished the traditional last meal request for inmates who are facing execution. Lawrence Russell Brewer was executed on Wednesday for the notorious hate crime killing of James Boyd Jr. in 1998. And it followed a complaint by Texan Senator John Whitmire, who called the meal privilege inappropriate. So where is enough? So essentially what this guy had, he had a massive order at 4 o'clock on Wednesday, but so this is what happened. He included 2 chicken fried steaks, a triple meat bacon cheeseburger, 3 fajitas, a meat lover's pizza, a pint of ice cream, and peanut butter fudge. And he had all of this, and it arrived, and it took about 5 people to bring this into his jail cell, the amount of food. And then he went, I'm not hungry.
Oh, no, that's it. You're instantly in the chair, bruv. Instantly.
Yeah, that's why they've ruined it for everybody else.
Yeah,
all those other serial killers that deserve a last meal, poor guys. and that is why.
Wow. No, do you know what? I get that. I can see
what would be your last meal?
See, this is a tricky one. Because how many courses am I allowed?
3.
Oh, perfect then. It's not that tricky.
Yeah.
For me, it would be a caprese salad to start. Mozzarella.
You're a personal trainer.
It's the best. Proper buffalo mozzarella. Decent beef tomatoes. Little bit of basil. But put salt, pepper, and olive oil on it. If you put pesto anywhere near that salad, I'm not eating it. In which case, it ruins it for everyone else. I'll be that guy that, everyone's last meal gets taken off him. If it's olive oil, if you put anything else, balsamic vinegar, pesto, anything else on that, I'm not eating it. I'm not eating it. But I love it. It's something about a caprese salad. Don't know what it is. Light, refreshing, decent mozzarella. It's incredible. That would be, because if there's any restaurant I go to and I look at the starters and that's the starter, I'm ordering that over anything else every single time.
Your main?
About that. It would either be a slow roasted leg of lamb or a properly done chili by a chili cook-off champion. That's what I'd want.
Now you said, with the exception of the chili, which brings you back down to theme. When anyone ever says you can't take the Essex out of the boy, a caprese salad followed by a slow roasted leg of lamb, you posh kid.
Bruv, get this, right? I'm going to one of my mates.
You and Rishi Sunak having this.
I'm going to my mate's wedding this weekend, right? It's my best mate from school. It's not quite a gothic, but it's a little bit goth as well. And the wedding theme is on Halloween. And they're going for a not gothic wedding, but Halloween-themed wedding without it going into fancy dress. And I'm going through my wardrobe going, the only things I have that are black is my gym kit. I don't own anything else that could be slightly classed as goth. It's light blue jeans, it's ripped jeans, it's smart jeans, it's white jeans, it's pink T-shirts, it's white T-shirts. So I went to this shop to get something gothic related. And what did I get? Black leather trousers. So even though I'm going goth, I'm still Essex in there. There's still a bit of Essex in there. Bruv, get this. I'm going black leather trousers and a leopard print shirt. You couldn't get more Essex and less goth. Come on, what am I doing? But I'll fit in. Yeah.
So
cheesecake's a funny one. You might have had this. Yeah, most people I know haven't had this. You may have had more access to this than someone else. I'm going to go with the Japanese, but a Japanese souffle cheesecake.
I've had this.
It's incredible. Most people haven't had it. They've had these thick, dense, overly sugary cheesecakes. No, not for me. Give me that souffle one, bruv.
I'm going to work backwards. Dessert, creme brulee. Good creme brulee.
Really?
We can tap the top.
Really?
Yeah. Main course, spaghetti carbonara.
Oh.
But my dad's spaghetti carbonara, because my dad adds cheddar to make it a little bit extra British.
This is what I was going to ask. Is it an authentic?
It's authentic in every way. It's not cream. Okay. There's no mushrooms. It's not ham. It's bacon.
Man knows.
It's egg yolk.
Man knows.
And it's parmesan and just added cheddar to make it extra cheesy.
With a little bit of extra cheddar. We'll allow that.
Starter goes completely off the Italian theme and has a really good Scotch egg. And I'm specifically thinking a Scotch egg from the market in Greenwich. For people who are in London, go to Greenwich Market, go to the Scotch egg stall. It is the best. I don't know how you cook a yolk that perfectly through a Scotch egg. No idea.
Okay, mine's quite Essex. Yours has northern tinges to it, mainly coming from the Scotch egg. But you're saying the best one you've had is in Greenwich, so I have to go and try that.
Definitely going to try that. So, I think with our last meal discussion, that is the good time to call this episode here. With technical difficulties, a bit of New World Order, and then completely going off the rails at the end. I think this has definitely been the most eclectic one we've ever done, but I think good fucking fun.
What would you even put as the main theme for this one? What would you put as the main theme? What are we going to go with?
If we ran the world.
Yeah, makes sense.
If we ran the world.
Yeah, that sums up everything, doesn't it? Yeah.
If when is that wedding?
This weekend, Saturday.
This weekend. Well, I was considering which episode do I put out tomorrow. Do I put this one out or do I put Alex Gates out? I'm going to put Alex Gates out because I want the thumbnail to be a picture of you in your leather trousers and your leopard print shirt.
Sold. Done.
When I click stop, by the way, I have another proposition for you, but I'm going to leave that surprise for all the audience. So stay tuned for it, and I will speak to you guys soon. Thanks again, Rob.
Thank you, sir.